Hello everyone, and thanks for attending the highlights of Business Central webinar. I will start with a couple of housekeeping points if that's okay. Before that, just let me quickly tell you about myself. I have been an ERP consultant for 20 years. I've worked with products such as Dynamics GP, NetSuite, as well as Business Central. And I've been working with Mhans for about 7 years now, and 2 of those years have been as a product manager, where I assist in identifying and designing products that work with Business Central. So during the webinar, all lines will be set to mute to avoid any noise interference. If you have any questions, please feel free to click on the questions on the chat window, and I'll respond out via email after the webinar if that's okay. The agenda for today is very simple. We're going to talk about what is Dynamics Business Central and how it differs from Dynamics GP. And these are just some of the main areas that I've chosen to show in this webinar. So that's the home page and navigation, the chart of accounts stroke dimensions, its integration with Office 365, email functionality within Business Central, and just show you a few tricks in the data entry. So let's begin. What is Business Central? Well, it's built and optimized for small and medium businesses. It is Microsoft's next generation of intelligent business applications in the cloud. What makes Business Central unique is that it harnesses the power of one Microsoft. So you can see it's got deep integration between Dynamics 365 and Office 365, which brings together the two worlds of business and personal productivity. We surface some familiar tools such as Excel and Word and Outlook, which significantly increases productivity and decreases context switching. We have Power BI and Cortana Intelligence natively embedded into Dynamics 365 business applications, which gives us predictive insights, prescriptive advice, and actionable next steps. Businesses can adapt to innovate in real time with a standard data model and an extensible business application platform, including Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI embedded. As you can see, Dynamics Business Central is an all-in-one business management solution combining financial, sales, operations in a single unified offering, robust analytics, and deeply integrated with Office 365. So the question is, why choose Dynamics 365 Business Central? Well, it's a SaaS offering, so therefore it's low on cost, scalable as the environment can grow with you. It is a managed environment, so all backups and upgrades are managed by Microsoft, so there is a cost saving there. Microsoft does 2 significant upgrades a year that usually offer a number of new features, but it also does hot fixes throughout the year as well, so they automatically get added to your system. It is flexible and it's easy to use. It has an Office 365 look and feel, and like I have said before, it's got a tight integration with the Microsoft stack. It's an established product as it was built on Microsoft Navision codebase. Navision is an on-premise ERP product, but has a customer base of over 140,000 customers in Europe alone. So let's see, how does it differ to Dynamics GP? Oops. Well, we'll have to go into BC for that, so let me just quickly go into Business Central. So what we're currently looking at is the role-centered page, and depending on what position you assign to yourself in Business Central will rely on what you see here. I'm currently assigned the Business Manager role, which means I can enter, view, sales, purchasing, and financial transactions. In the action section, Microsoft have put some of the everyday actions at the tip of your fingertips. So if I wanted to create a new vendor or a customer, I could just click on New. I can also view some of my financial reports in Excel. So if I just click on here, you see I've got a number of financial reports. If I click on Balance Sheet, oh, just bear with me. Just let me refresh that. Sorry. Oh, it's taken a right. Refreshed. So let's just try that again. There's our balance sheet, and I'm just going to open it up in Excel. So here, the system is trying to authenticate me as a user within Business Central, because only users within Business Central can access these financial reports. And you can see here it's trying to retrieve the data and verifying the authentication. And it should be coming up now. So this is my balance sheet as of today's date. If I want to remove the 0 lines, I can just click on that and it will do that. Now, this report is built using GL account categories, which I'm going to touch on a bit later, but they are really handy in helping to define your financial statements, be it in Business Central or be it in tools such as Power BI. So if I come out of that, you can save these and then every time you reopen them, they'll refresh the latest data, but I'm not going to save mine. If we go back to Business Central, so as I scroll down, you see I've got a number of tiles telling me what's going on in the sales area, purchasing area, and outstanding invoices. If I drill down on outstanding vendor purchase invoices, you will see all the transactions that make up that value of 118. Okay, here they are. And this is, I suppose, very similar to a smart list within GP. But what I like about this feature is that if you click on these 3 dots here, you have a number of actions that you can perform. So for example, if this invoice was applied, which obviously won't be because it's in the outstanding vendor invoices, you can deal with, you can unapply, you can apply if you need to pay it off or, allocate a credit note or something to it. And another thing that I really like is that you've got the ability to select more. Oh, it's not playing ball today. Oops, sorry. All right, let's try again. Hopefully it'll come up. So as I was saying, you can click on these 3 buttons and I can select more. So it will allow me to select multiple transactions, which I can take. And if I wanted, I can go to process. I can actually create a payment from here. So if I click on create payment, it will take those 4 invoices and create a payment batch. And I can define which is the payment batch that I want to use and the bank account I want to pay from. And if I click OK, you will see it's created a payment batch. And what it's also done is, because I had 2 invoices for this vendor, it's actually summed them up and then just given me one value against it. So kind of like, I know it's very similar to the homepage within GP, but the beauty of this is that you can actually perform actions from this homepage a lot easier. Now, if we go back to the homepage, and again, just by clicking on the company name, it will always take me back to the homepage. And if we scroll further down, you see I've got information. I can set up some user tasks, which is, I suppose, every system, but I also have details of emails that I've sent, and these are emails that I've sent throughout the system from the system. So if I look at here, these are the 4 emails I've sent in the last 30 days. I can see that I've sent a remittance advice, I've sent a sales invoice, and I've sent some test emails. If I click on the remittance advice, I can see who the email went to. So it was Suntia Chandnani at mhans.com. I can see the message and I can also see the attachment. So all that is available for you to see straight from Business Central. You don't have to find that email in your outbox or sent box even. What you can also see on the home page is if you put workflows into play. So if you wanted workflow approval for purchase invoices, You would, if you were an approver, you would see the number of invoices you had to approve. If you were someone who was requesting approval of invoices, you would see the numbers that were the number of invoices that were outstanding for approval. As we go further down, we've got a mini trial balance, which comes in handy. We've also got these favorite accounts. If there's certain accounts that you want to keep an eye on, you could add those accounts there. And then again, you can look at that information. So I can drill down on that balance and I can see all the transactions that make that up. Something I forgot to show you earlier, but any of the tiles that you click on, if anything is highlighted in blue, it basically means you've got full drill down capability. So from the tiles, you can actually get to the purchase invoices themselves. Now, this is the element that I really like, is the ability to embed Power BI reports into your homepage. So this is a Power BI reporting pack that we've put together. And we have one for GP as well as Business Central. And if I expand the report, just so you can see, because it's a bit difficult to view it that way. You can see it's bringing up the information on the reports. And I've got within this tab, if I close that down, I've got about 13 reports that I can use. So again, great to see the information where, and the beauty of Power BI is that you can absolutely slice and dice the data. So for example, if you wanted to look at an income statement monthly, you can see the information by a particular fund or a particular cost center. So it gives you all that flex, which is great, but I won't focus too much on that. So now that's basically the role page, and I find it really, really useful because I can get to where I need to be. And I can do actions from here, which makes life so much easier. As in, I could even select, produce a new invoice if I wanted to from here. Now, let's talk about the navigation. So in GP, you're probably used to using the navigation pane. And this is very similar to that, I suppose. You've got your finance here and you've got options here. Are you going into the chart of accounts, general journals, that kind of thing? Or you can actually use what's called the global search, and this is what I like to do. So you can just type in a couple of letters of what you want to do, and you will see that it brings up the top 3 that matches that search. Now what it's showing is it's splitting this page or this section into 3. So you've got your pages, so that's pages are basically where you perform actions like data entry or to do with setup of the or configuration. Then you've got your reports and analysis, and then you've got your documentation. By default, like I said, it shows the top 3, but if you need to show all of them, you can click on show the number, and then it will show you all of them. Now, I want to look at general journals, so I can click on that and it will take me into that page. Another way to navigate is that if you have favorite pages that you want to use, you can bookmark them. So if I add bookmark, and then if I go back, you can now see that the page that I want to use is here. So I can click on general journals and just with one click, I get to where I need to be. So I suppose that's very similar to the shortcuts in Dynamics GP, but in the sense that it's just on your header bar here. You don't need to go to the navigation pane to get to where you need to be. So there's lots of ways to navigate. There's even the old style, if you prefer that, which is very similar to, I think, the palettes within GP. So you could go to general journals that way. So a lot of choice on how you do this. My preference is using the global search or putting bookmarks in, but like I said, it's however you want to do it. Now, the next thing I kind of want to show is talk about the kind of like the smart list thing. So in Business Central, in Dynamics GP, you have Smart List. In Business Central, you have something called List. So if we look at vendor ledger entries, now vendor ledger entries are the equivalent to a vendor daybook or vendor transactions in Dynamics GP. And here's my vendor ledger entries. And this is a list of all the transactions on my ledger, okay, for all vendors. Now, again, just a quick way to search for things. If you're looking for just one particular vendor, you could type in a couple of the, the start of the name. Oh, that didn't work. And because I typed in add, it's returned everything that it could find that contains AD. Now, if I wanted to limit that a bit further, I could type in adver, and then we just got all advantage. You don't need to just search for a vendor name. You can search for anything in here, invoice number, payment tag, whatever. Now, so that's one thing, that's an easy search. But if you wanted to use multiple filters to get to the information that you wanted, you can click on filters and you can set those up. But if I just click on vendor, which is like a Save Smart list in my world, if I click on that, you will see, so here you can see this list that I've saved is based on, I want to see all the document types that have an external document of this for this posting date. The remaining balance is not equal to 0 and it relates to this vendor. So here I've got 5 filters. In Smart List and GP you only have 4, but the beauty of Business Central is that you can have unlimited filters. So I've got 5, but you could do however many you wanted. And just as you can with Smart List, you can save them and then they will appear in this view here. So it's not like you have to keep on recreating them, they will stay there. What you can also do from these lists is you can, again, just as we could when we were in the tile, we can create payments, we can apply entries, or we can reverse transactions. So again, it's not having to navigate to different places to do the action that you need to perform. So if I come out of here, now, sorry, what I forgot to say is, again, just like in business in GP, where you've got your Smart List, you can put things into Excel. We have the same functionality here. We've got the ability to put data into Excel, or we can edit in Excel, and I'm going to touch on that. The edit in Excel is a great functionality, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Now, the next thing I wanted to do is talk about the chart of accounts, because it greatly differs to how we have it in GP. Now, if I go here and we just go to the chart of accounts, so another way to just navigate, and you will see that my chart of accounts is just one segment or one code. And in GP, I know you can have multiple segments, and I'll come to how we manage that in here. And what you can do here is that if you wanted to, I don't know, if you wanted to look for a particular account, you could just type in the first few letters of the description and it bring everything up. If you needed to change the name of the account, you could click on Edit List, and you could quickly make a change. And let's say I call it that. What you can also do against each of, against this edit list, if I needed to change the type, whether it's a balance sheet or an income account, I could do that. But what it does that it doesn't do in GP is it allows me to also attach a VAT code. So if this is a if this is a transaction that I would want to put VAT entries against it, I can decide which tax code I want to default in. So that's really handy. If I prefer to actually drill down, I can click on the actual transaction, the actual account number, and it'll take me into the card. And again, if I wanted to change, so my VAT product posting group, which is basically the equivalent to a tax schedule ID, I've got it as standard at 20%, but I could change it to any. And again, just like when you're doing data entry, these are just the defaults. If you need to change them at the point of data entry, you can do. But this is really handy because if you're doing a lot of tax journals, having the default set up makes life so much easier. Now, if I just clear that, so I've got my full chart here. Now, again, how it differs from GP is that you're probably, well, you will be used to seeing a summary inquiry view. We don't kind of have that in Business Central. We just have these lists and we use that. So I've got this balance at date, net change and balance. If I click on my filter again, and let's just say I wanted to filter the totals by a particular date. So this is here. So if I put it by the date filter, and if I say the date filter is, let's do March. Okay, so you can see it's now filtering. So the balance at date for this is 500, but the balance as of today's date is 616. And if I wanted to filter this even more, I could filter list by. So here, I could say I just want to see my balance sheet accounts. Sorry. And where I balanced at date was not equal to 0. And if I tab off, so now you can see I'm looking at only balance sheet accounts for this date range where the balance is not 0. And if we look at my bank account, have I got a bank? Yes. So you can see the balance as of 31st of March was 322, and as of today's date is that, and that's the difference. Now, if we drill down on anything that's highlighted or underlined even, you will see all the transactions that make that figure up. And then again in here, you can set up more filters if you want, or you can export the data into Excel and play around with it if you needed to. So this is how you kind of get the summary information that you're probably used to looking into the summary page or the summary window in GP. And again, if there are certain like these filters that you set, you can save them and just as you would in a smart list, and then all you have to do is just click on that and it will automatically bring it up, and all you probably would have to do is change the date range. Now, if I just get rid of that for the moment, oh, let me just clear the filters because I just want to talk a bit more about the chart. So as you can see, against each nominal account, we assign an account category. Now, you're probably used to that already because you've got those 48 categories within GP, but here we only have 7 categories that can't be changed. But what we do have is these subcategories, and that's what drives the financial reports. So if we look at these subcategories in a bit more detail, and the beauty of this is when you assign a subcategory to a nominal account, it automatically will update the mapping here. So when these categories are used in reports, it will know which accounts to show detail for. Okay, so here you can see these are my subcategories, and what I've done is I've lumped them together against a parent called current assets, which is then linked to my asset category. So this helps to make the financial reports appear the way you want. And it's a lot easier because every time you create a new account, you would assign an account subcategory, so it will automatically appear on the report. You don't have to go into Management Reporter and add it to that or FRX or whatever reporting tool you're using. And again, because if you're using Power BI, another beautiful thing about this is the fact that if these categories are already linked, Power BI knows what accounts to show. So again, makes the process of writing reports in Power BI very simple. Now, as I said, oh, sorry, before I go, just you can have unlimited subcategories. So, you know, you can create whatever you want. You need to really look at your accounting. You need to look at your reporting and what you need to get out of the system, and then work backwards as you would normally do whenever you're designing a new chart of accounts. But in here, you think about the chart of accounts and you think about the account subcategories, because between them, they will help you produce your financial statements. Now, besides needing a chart of accounts, because that's only one code, dimensions are essential in Business Central. So a dimension is a way to classify or categorize transactions that are going to hit your nominal accounts, so very similar to the segments that we have in in GP. So for example, if I had an income account and I wanted to analyze that by the department, maybe a project or an event, I can use dimensions. So if we kind of look at the dimensions I've got, and I'm just going to go here. And so you can see got 4 dimensions. You can have up to 8. So that's the equivalent to having like 8 segments. And against each dimension, so I've got fund, and if I go, I've got the dimension values. And here you can see I've got 4 values for this one, which is all the types of fund types I have: unrestricted, restricted. If I look at my departments, the values associated with that, you will see I've got finance, fundraising, governance, and so on. And if I look at my events, you'll see I have a number of events. Which are here. Now, the beauty of the dimension values is that you can have them unlimited, you can add them as and when you need, and they are a lot more powerful than segments because they allow me to tag them onto transactions that require them. So for example, if I had a balance sheet account and it did not require the department or the event, I don't need to tag it on. Whereas if you were in GP, you would have to get your segments all correct. So you'd have to have a department segment. Even if you made it 000, you still need the 4 segments or however many for your chart. This way you can keep your chart quite small, but your dimensions, which are basically your segments, you can increase those and then just tag them as and when you need them. Okay. So for some clients, it's a bit difficult to get the head around that, but it really works really well because you're not having to create accounts for things that you might not need a segment for. So for example, you might not need an event for a particular expense account, or you might not need a project and so on. So another thing with the dimensions that you can do, which I absolutely love, is the fact that you can attach them to any master record. And what I mean by a master record is a GL account, customer, vendor record, or bank account, or an item record. But we're just going to look at vendors. And let's just select a vendor. So if let's select this one, Nikon. Now against each vendor or customer or any master record, I can put default dimensions against them. So by putting the default dimension against them, it basically means when you process a transaction against this vendor, these dimensions will automatically default onto the header and the line. Now you can change them, but what it does, it just makes sure that if the user doesn't really have to think if they're going to be the same every time for this vendor. You can default them in. If you only want to default out 2 out of 4, you can do that. You can decide how many you default in and how many you don't. So it comes very handy because these segments are these dimensions are going to be used for reporting purposes. So it's best practice that you do have something set up. Now, if you decide that you don't want to set up a default dimension because it might be different every time, then always set up a value posting. Now, value posting just makes sure that we process the transactions correctly. So if I just had it set to code mandatory, it basically means that the user can't post the transaction until they have identified the dimensions for whichever code that we've put here. If we put the same code, it basically means whatever the default is, that's what should come onto the transaction and it cannot be changed by the user. if for whatever reason we don't want a dimension to be associated with this vendor for, say, fund type, if I set no code, that means the user can't put in a dimension against that vendor for the fund because we don't need it, so we set it to no code. If you left it blank, that's where we have a free-for-all, where users can let defaults come in, but they can remove them. So you could end up posting transactions where there is no dimension. So when you're doing your reporting, it's not great because you've got elements missing. So best practice is to always have it set to something like that. Leave that blank if you want, but then set it to something like that. Well, obviously, if it was same code, you can't leave it blank. But you get my gist. And I think that's fantastic because it just means users don't have to think too much. All they need to do is just make sure they've got the right nominal code, and then they can move on. So I want to kind of now quickly show you how we can process transactions within Business Central. And what I want to do is actually show you the edit in Excel functionality. So if I just go to my desktop, try and get to my desktop. Oh, it's been a bad day today, hasn't it? Bear with me. No, it's determined not to move. Oh, okay, we'll just do it from here. So if I go to General Journals, and if I click on Edit in Excel, so if I go to Page, Edit in Excel. Now, Edit in Excel is like a journal template, okay? And you can play around with it, so you can change the field formations, but you need to have the core fields. And again, it's just authenticating me as a user within Business Central. So you could actually download this template once, keep the fields that you want, remove the fields you don't want, and then just save it and use it on a regular basis. So as you can see, it's just trying to link up. Okay, so it's here now. So rather than entering a journal, I'm just going to copy and paste one that I've prepared. So here we've got this journal here. So I'll just copy the data in here. Let's just quickly talk about what we're seeing here. So I've got 3 journals, 76, 77, 78. One is a payment, so it's like a bank transaction and it's going to that bank account. And everything looks good. I've got my dimensions here, so I've put them on here so they'll come through. And I'll click on publish. Now, when I'm publishing it, it's updating. Oh, 10 errors were encountered. Oh dear. Let's just close that down and start again. All right, let's just. This is right. Oh, yes, this is wrong. Sorry, I've got the wrong template. Let me just bring my template up. Here it is. So the reason it wasn't working before is that I've actually removed all the fields that I don't want on my template. So this is the template that I should be using. So that's why it didn't work. So let's hope this just now retrieving. So I'm just waiting for this to authenticate, and then I can paste my journal in. Okay, so now if we look at this, yes, that's better. And if we publish, you see it's saying workbook updated. So if I now go back into Business Central, and if I just refresh that because I had the journal page open, you can see my journal has come in. Now, again, obviously, if you wanted to delete a journal or change the figures, you can do. If you noticed an anomaly, you can correct it here rather than going back to the template. And if you want to preview the journal, as you would when you look at the distribution windows in GP, what you can do is go into what's called preview posting. Now, where this differs from GP is in the fact that you can't change the distributions. The system, in GP, you can amend the rows in the distribution. You can't here. You have to change it on the transaction, and then it will update the distribution screen. Okay, so you can see you're seeing all the information here. You're seeing the account name, the account code. You're seeing what dimensions you've attached to it. You're seeing whether it's a debit or a credit amount, and so on. So if in the preview window, what another thing that you will see, and it's depending what transaction you're entering. So here I entered a bank transaction. So you can see we've got a bank account ledger entry. So what this is going to show me is what's going to appear on my bank statement, on my bank reconciliation screen. So this is really good. If you did a VAT transaction journal, you would see what would appear on the VAT return. So I feel that this is a lot better than GP in that respect, in that I can see what elements are going to be impacted, whether it be fixed assets, whether it's the bank account, bank reconciliation, whether it's going to be the VAT. So I think that's really cool. So once you've got your journals here, you can post, but let's just pretend that you wanted to check, I don't know, journal 77. Sorry, you wanted to check journal 76 and 78, and you wanted to post 77. In GP, you'd have to put it into a new batch. You don't need to do that here. Again, you can just filter, and I'm going to filter by document number. And I'll 00077. So when I filter on that, it brings that up, and I can decide just to post this one journal, and I'll post. And it said the journal's posted, and if I remove my filter, you now see I've still got journal 76 and 78 in this batch. So the batch process is slightly different than what you see in GP, but I do find this really useful because I used to hate having to move into batch, change things batches wise. So I thought that was quite cool. Right, what I want to show you now is how you can enter a purchase invoice from Outlook itself. So here's my Outlook, okay? And what I've got here is a couple of invoices from a company called Bronze. And what happens is when you install Business Central, you get this add-in. And this add-in recognizes that Bronze is a vendor in my system, and it brings up details. So what I can see here is I can just see some stats. I can see that I've got a balance of 1096. And you can have GP closed at this time. You don't need to, I'm sorry, BC closed at this time. And what you've got is the ability to, I don't know, review the transactions if I want to drill down and I want to see this transaction. Now, for me, this is a difficult way to see the data. So I click on open in new page, and it will now open the information in a new page. There we are. And I can see the details of the invoice, okay? What I can also do is if I scroll back from here, I can click on the three dots, and I can, if I wanted to pay this invoice, I could do that. I can unapply it if it was partly applied, and so on. So you have this functionality within here to do whatever you need to do. If you wanted to look at outstanding invoices that have not been posted, I can see that I've got £120 that's still not been posted. So if I needed to make a change to that, maybe change the GL code or whatever, I could do that from Outlook without having to go into the transaction. Now let's just look at this invoice here. Now this invoice is 103086. It's dated 19th of October, quite old. And I've got a fundraising merchandise and it's a total of 27. Okay. Now, again, I'm feeling a bit lazy. I don't want to go into Business Central. I'm going to process the invoice from here. So again, make sure I've got the right vendor, and then I click on here and I click on Purchase Invoice. And what this will do is it will do some of the data entry for me. So if I click on Open a New Window, because for me that's not a great way to enter transactions, and I can enter the information here. So I can change the document date to be the 19th of October, but I'm going to post it in this financial period. And my invoice number is 103086. And rather than putting it against an item, be it inventory or non-inventory, I'm just going to post it straight to the GL account. And I know that the account is called fund. So if I just do that, it will bring up all the ones containing fund in it. And I want to put it there, and I put a quantity of 1 and 1500. Okay. Now, because my vendor has got default dimensions associated with it, they automatically default in. So if I wanted to change them, I could do, it's not a problem. And then I'll go on to the next line, and that was merchandise. So again, I don't know the code, so I can just type this in here. Type 1, and that was 1200. And again, the dimensions have defaulted in, but if I need to change them, it's not an issue. If I want to change a different one here, I can do. And then you will see you've got the subtotal there, the VAT amount, and you would check all that information as you normally do, make sure it's all okay. And then you close this down. Now, I can post a transaction from here if I want, but I'm choosing not to. I can even send it for approval. So if you've got workflow approval on here, I can send an approval request. I can post it from here. I can preview the posting. I can do everything that I would need to do. But let's just say I don't want to. I want it to be reviewed, or I want to check something from it. So if I close this down, oh, sorry, what did I do? Yeah. So if I close this down, and then if I go back into Business Central, did I close it down? Oh yeah. I'll go back into Business Central and I go to Purchasing Invoices. So these are my unposted invoices, and you can see the invoices here are waiting to be posted or awaiting approval. Okay, and you can see the information has come through. Okay, so it's really easy to do that. You know, if you don't want to open up Business Central, you can do your data processing from there, be it sales orders, sales invoices, or purchase invoices or purchase orders. Okay, so now let's just look at the email functionality. So let's imagine you're working in Business Central, but you really don't want to open your email box. What you can do is you can actually send emails from here. So based on your email configuration, okay, will depend on which email box you see the info. So for example, my configuration means using the current user, so all the sent emails will appear in my personal in my work email box. So if I click on process, no, not process. Sorry, it was process. And if I want to compose an email, so here I can just type in the name of the person I want to send an email to. I can put a message in here, and I can also attach. So just like standard emails, you can choose what you want to attach. Well, you can attach emails. Sorry, attach files. Once you've attached it, you can send the email. So if I send, and then if I go back into my email box and I go to my sent items, you will see it's there. So the email has gone and I'm able to see it in my sent box. And I'm also able to see it if I go into my email sent in the last 30 days. You can see it's there. Okay. So I kind of like that. So you can still just keep on working in one system and not having to hop to one or two systems to do your stuff. Okay. Now, I just kind of want to show you some elements that I really like when you're doing data entry. So again, I'm going to go back to general journals because this feature I really like, and we don't have it in GP. So if I just, I'm just going to delete these journals so I can show you what I want to do. So what you can do in Business Central, you've got the ability from the general journal screen to enter an invoice or a payment or a credit memo against a vendor or a customer. So for example, if I wanted to do an invoice and I wanted it for a particular vendor, I can select the vendor that I want. Okay. And this comes in handy if you're trying, if you're doing adjustments that you want to write off. Actually, let me do a credit memo. That might be easier. And if I go to the amount field, so you can enter your currency, obviously. And if I go to the amount field and I'm going to enter, I don't know, let's say it needs to total 180. I've got the credit note in front of me. I can actually do it this way. I can do 20 plus 15. And that calculates it's 180. Okay. And because I'm going to do it, yeah, I'm going to do it against the vendor, so I'll do it as minus 180. And what I can do is on the balancing account, oh, sorry, I've done that wrong. Yeah. On the balancing account type, I can say the other side of this is going to be the GL account, and I can choose a GL code. Now, the beauty of this throughout is that you can either type in the code as you saw me do, or you can type in the first few letters of the account description and it will bring it up, and then you can select whatever account you want. Okay. Now, because I'm doing a credit note, even because it's in a journal, I've got the ability to apply it. So if I go to Process, Apply Entries, I can decide which invoice I want to link it to. So if I put here, go here and Process, Set Apply to ID, it's going to go against that one. Okay, so that invoice was for 2,700 and I've just applied 180 against it. Okay. So I think that's really cool. It's the fact that you can enter transactions from here. And if I just show you the preview posting. Sorry, put my debits and credits wrong. Because it's a credit note, not an invoice. Duh. Right, if I just go back into preview posting. So it's kind of good. It tells me everywhere that I've gone wrong, so that's quite impressive. So what I wanted to show you here is that it shows me what is going to impact the GL. So this is again like the distribution window within GP. Got your debit and credit. It's going to hit that expense account, credit that expense account, and debit that supplier. But it also tells me what it's going to update to the vendor account. So it's telling me against this account is going to put a credit note of 180 on. And the details vendor ledger entry shows me the application that I've done here. Okay, so it shows the original 180 going on, and then it shows me matching it to an invoice. So you have all that information before you actually post anything. So you can review that and you can make sure, yeah, that all looks good. And then you're ready to post. And then if I click on post, I can post that. Again, don't forget within here, if you need to do approvals on your journals, you can do that. That happens. So it's little features like that that I really like. And you've got, it's not just, you know, you can do a bank transaction, you can do a vendor customer, you can do an intercompany, or you can do a fixed asset, or you can post something to the employee. So that comes in handy when you've got employee expenses, but you don't want to take a system like project accounting or something like that. You can process employee expenses in here as well. Now, I kind of hope this gives you an insight into some of the differences between Business Central and GP. Both systems are absolutely great, and GP was my first love. But I do think that, you know, there are some benefits of this, especially with the chart of account structure. But hopefully it's given you a feel for the product. Now, before we close, I just kind of want to go back to our slides. And I just kind of want to show you the webinars that we've got going forward. So we've got some Business Central new features and updates, expense management for GP, Power BI, and so on. And if any of these are interest to you, please register mhams.com/events. It'd be really good to see you there. And if you do require more information on Business Central, or you want to know more about the differences, because there is quite a few, it's just difficult to show you all in an hour, let me know and I'll let you, and I'll be in touch. And finally, before I sign off, just to let you know, there's a quick survey that's going to appear, and if you could just fill that in, that would be greatly appreciated. So thanks everyone, and I'm sorry for the few issues that we had. It seems my broadband is not as good as I thought. And have a great time and stay safe. Bye.